bigger, stronger movement altogether. And so we picked this idea, and who knows, maybe equity will be the thing, maybe it'll be somebody else, some other idea that will help grow the movement to the point where it needs to be. But what we do is we focus on campaigns. We identify various problems that have a shared foundation for social justice, environmental justice, grassroots conservation groups to work collaboratively and then try to win. I'll just give you a few examples of what we're working on. There's a golf course in San Mateo County that's owned by the city and county of San Francisco. It's called Sharp Park Golf Course. The golf course has been losing money for many years, and it also kills a couple of endangered species almost on an annual basis. One of them is probably the most imperiled vertebrate species in the San Francisco Peninsula, the San Francisco garter snake. And so what we've done is we've built coalitions with social service organizations in San Francisco who are concerned about how money is being used to subsidize suburban golf, unsustainable suburban golf in San Mateo County, while at the same time the city is closing down service centers right here in our urban core. Working with those groups, environmental justice groups and grassroots conservation organizations, bringing them together to promote a new vision for the landscape down there, a new public park that saves the city money and allows them to redirect that money to whatever they desire, whether it's to save services for the elderly, for children, put it in golf here in the city. They can do whatever they want with it. Another example, there's a series of power plants that are being proposed in eastern Contra Costa County near Antioch and Oakley, California, and in some degree because of victories we've won here at the clinic, yes, as well. Thank you. You know, lawyers get losing track of time. So we have a campaign out there working with some community groups out there that are concerned about air impacts on human health. And the same pollution is likely to cause the extinction of a little butterfly out there, so we're bringing groups together there as well. So I would say that in terms of what I'd recommend in my experience so far that would be useful to you is to volunteer every job that I've ever gotten. I've gotten by either creating myself or volunteering for someone else. And I can tell you that a good volunteer is worth more than their weight in gold. And people will offer you jobs if you just show up and show you're committed and interested in their work. And the other thing I would recommend you consider in law school is certainly taking a lot of the skill classes that will help you learn how to be a lawyer. There's certainly plenty of those here at Golden Gate. But also keep in mind that your bar card is more than just sort of a hoop you have to run through to obtain, but it's a little economic engine for you. And presuming you have enough safety around you to take a little bit of risk, and I know with debt loads coming out of school, the probability of that safety is getting smaller and smaller. But presuming you have a little bit of safety to take a risk, you can make your dream job right out of school. You don't have to wait for someone to give it to you. And that's actually what my friends and I from law school we first did when we graduated. We formed this first office of a larger regional organization at the time, and it worked out. It worked out for us. It can happen. Other than that, I think I have nothing else to add.
It's a good question.
Good questions. Thank you very much.
My name is Layla Monroe, and I am a staff attorney in the Oceans Program at the Natural Resources Defense Council. And I'd like to thank Golden Gate for inviting me to speak today, and it's an honor to close up a panel of some really exceptional colleagues in the environmental community. I'd also like to thank a member of your student body, Angela Heron-Kelly, for being a fabulous intern with NRDC. She has been a tremendous member of our team. So it's really great to be working with your community so intensively over the last year. So I'm going to start off telling you how I came to be doing the work I'm doing, which is really my dream job, and I feel so fortunate to have this position. When I was in law school, I really struggled with the consideration that the legal field was not really the best fit for me, and I thought long and hard about whether I would finish up with law school, and finally realized that one of my main passions in life, which is spending time in the ocean, surfing and fishing with my family, might offer a kind of window into the right area for me to practice. And lo and behold, there is an entire world of ocean conservation work out there. And after a very little bit of digging, I was in DC at the time, I was able to find a variety of really interesting internships and volunteer positions. And as you've heard from the other panelists, those kinds of positions are such a gift because you can work somewhere for a very short period of time and then decide this is not a good fit for me, and or decide that it's a really great fit. So I worked in the government for the Office of General Counsel. I wasn't actually the General Counsel, it would have been nice, but for international law at NOAA. And then worked for a variety of small nonprofits in DC and came out to San Francisco, sort of taking a chance. I didn't have a job out here. I worked for a number of small NGOs and then a consulting firm that works to evaluate the efficacy of the conservation work that is funded by large foundations. So I sort of circled around my ideal dream job until the moment that it came up, and then I presented myself at NRDC and let them know I'd do anything they required to get the position. So I'm really grateful to work at NRDC. In the Oceans program, we have a number of priorities. Our topical priorities are first, to end overfishing. We work in the US, both on the East and the West Coast, and then internationally. We also work to protect key habitat, so through the implementation of marine protected areas. And then we work, this is sort of a ascending level of wonkiness, we work on governance improvement in the ocean, so to improve the way that agencies work together to do a range of things, whether it's the siting of offshore renewable or energy projects, whether it's water quality improvements. I work with the Ocean Protection Council in California that brings those agencies together and tries to improve their efficiency and their effectiveness. And then we also work on ocean acidification and trying to educate and address some of the root causes of ocean acidification. So I'll give you an example of a campaign that I worked on that will illustrate how, among the various topics I work on, we really have to bring to bear a whole suite of different skill sets. And I think that this is something you should carefully consider if you do go to work for an NGO, that you will, unless you're doing strictly litigation, you are likely to need to bring a whole suite of skills to bear. And that can be really fun, or it can be sort of tedious because you're not able to devote all of your time to the research. And Buzz kind of alluded to this. I think you probably have to do it anywhere. But I was working for the last year on a campaign to ban the sale and trade of shark fins in the state of California. So Assembly Bill 376, which was enacted just a few weeks ago, signed into law by Governor Brown, is a really great sort of example of how a campaign in an advocacy organization like NRDC is run start to finish. So first, we were approached by a partner organization, Wild Aid, who had done something similar in the state of Hawaii. And they came to us and said, you know, this is the situation. 26 to 73 million sharks are killed every year just for their fins. The fins are removed, the sharks are discarded, and it's resulting in the decimation of species all around the world. And what is driving this practice is the demand for shark fins. And there has already been an effort to stop the practice of finning in California waters and in federal waters. And it's largely been ineffective because the fins come through international trade. They're processed, 80% of them are processed in Hong Kong, and then they're actually imported into the US, and California being the largest point of import, and actually the second largest market for fins outside of Asia. So the first step, as we were evaluating whether this was a campaign we would take on, was to review the status of the science and to review the existing legal mechanisms on the books, and then to consider whether the proposed mechanism would in fact be effective at addressing this problem. And it's in the science area that I'm probably weakest in terms of my skill set. I don't have any science background, so that has been challenging for me. I've really had to kind of learn how to read scientific material. And so that's an area where, you know, I can reach out to scientists, but it's very interesting to kind of feel limited in that space. So we decided to take on the campaign, and what we had to do, in addition to helping to sort of review drafts of the legislation and start it moving through the process, was build a very strong coalition of individuals, organizations from a very broad range of interests. And so that's where communication and interpersonal skills really come in. I spend a tremendous amount of time delivering information in very succinct and somewhat repetitive formats. So I do a lot of blogging, tweeting, which I don't mind, and it's kind of fun, but I would not have anticipated that this would be the kind of thing I would be doing. But in fact, it's very effective. We're able to get hundreds of thousands of Californians to stand up, and in the process of educating people, well, in the process of doing our advocacy, we are educating hundreds of thousands of people about the issue. So in the end, after tremendous work, we were successful in passing the bill, and it was a really great victory. Now, that's a very unusual case for our work. It's succinct, and it was a one-year campaign that was victorious, and now we're considering what we can do beyond California and even beyond the US to address the source of this problem. But I think that illustrates the type of work that I do at NRDC. So as I was thinking about suggestions that I could offer to you all in terms of your work and your situation, I hit upon three different sort of values that I think are useful to consider, regardless of your topical interest. And those are focus, flexibility, and being bold. So in terms of focus, I would encourage you and suggest that it's really helpful to figure out what values, what issues are most important to you. Do you want an environment that is really competitive, that has you challenged really in the traditional litigation sense, or do you have a really strong topical interest, as I do, in the oceans? Second, flexibility. I think this is really important, and a theme that was woven throughout the other panelists' talk, that if you have a sense of what your focus is, what your core kind of values are, that it really helps to be flexible and don't stress too much about the next job. If you are willing to put yourself out there and take a position, it might not be your dream job, but you can learn a lot, and as long as you demonstrate your commitment to, in this case, the environment, and to ultimately achieving or earning that dream job, I think that will take you very far. And then finally, I'd encourage you to be bold and to not be nervous to just reach out to members of the profession that are working in the areas where you would most want to work. All of the interns who have worked for me have actively approached me in a way that, maybe it didn't immediately result in an internship, but that kind of persistent demonstration of their desire to work in the field is something that really, it stands out. So just make those cold calls, make those contacts, stalk people at seminars and things. I think it's fairly effective. So those are some of my suggestions, and I'd be happy to talk with any of you after. So thank you very much.
Thank you for that phrase, ascending levels of wonkiness. I need to find more uses for that. Trying to describe the way I think. That's pretty fun. I'm just going to make two quick comments and then open it up to questions initially. One of them, Layla mentioned something interesting. I was, as an undergraduate, I was a history major with an English minor, one of those degrees where you come out and you're like, I'm good at cocktail parties and I cannot do anything. But I also have been somewhat challenged from that background in terms of with the science. That's not what my background was, but I have to say over time, I think it's the part of my job that I have come to, one of the parts that I've come to love the most. That I think for all of us, you spend a great deal of time working with people who have expertise outside of your area. Whether it's toxicologists or geologists or marine biologists or foresters, you end up, climatologists, you end up, because of the substance of the work